I'm Gordon Reigstad, the president of PS0. I have a PhD in civil engineering, primarily in structural engineering as a focus. And we've been at this engineering business for about 45 years as my own firm. I think I was always good in things, science, math. It was just sort of a natural thing, and I could get into details of how I got to the PhD. That was never my intent, but it did work out that way. And it's just something I enjoyed, and I still enjoy that. Some of my summer jobs were working on highway construction and stuff, which was related to this stuff. So it could have been electrical, it could have been mechanical, but the structural engineering side of it, the civil engineering side, seemed to be the best for me, best fit for me. One of my first jobs was with another civil engineer who was an attorney as well, who was a design build contractor, one of the first in Minnesota. And so I learned not only the engineering side, but the contracting side. And so I had an understanding of both sides of it. And his first job for me was to go out and build a building. Right. So yeah, so that was, that's an experience that most engineers don't get. And that's the key in our business. Too often we're more like, well, that's just ways and means of the contractor. Let him figure it out. And to a certain extent, that's our industry. How we got directly into the PS0 really relates to things we had at the time. We had a precast group that used a lot of couplers and that kind of stuff. In this primarily where 99.9% of the couplers are used is in the precast industry. So it was kind of a crossover or whatever into the cast in place work. And we had a project in Biloxi that was like it was 6 months behind schedule, had 150 inches of rain without a named storm. And so they were really behind, and it had a very wide pour strip, 8 feet wide, I think, or something like that. And they were trying to figure out ways and so they presented ways to get away from that, and how to finish faster and how to get back on schedule or not lose any more. And what happened was they presented us with the lockable dowel solution. And basically, any solution had to look like the normal pour strip, the traditional pour strip that's been used for 100 years. And this didn't come close. It probably took care of maybe one thing, the shear part, but nothing else. No diaphragm shear, no moments, no nothing else. And it was developed by workmen who did not really understand. They were understanding a problem they were trying to solve, which was a shoring and forming problem. Okay, but they didn't really understand the technical aspects. And I don't really understand how engineers now can agree to that in a sense that it was an expansion joint. If you use it as an expansion joint, then it was fine from the beginning. But you needed extra shear walls at each side of the expansion joint. You needed a whole different design. And so it was like, oh my, we can't do that. So then we tried to develop something, and we did with some off-the-shelf stuff for a quick solution. I had an engineer on site, and he was able to make sure it got implemented properly, and that worked. It was a far cry from what we use today. And but then we spent the next 2-3 years developing more or less the technical part of what you see today with the grouted coupler, the threaded rebar and stuff like that. And we saw, if this solution works for these guys, it might be able, if we work on it for a while and get something a little better, we'll have a solution for the rest of the community, the construction community. And it's turned out to be, yes, that's it. Basically, it's the conflict between the engineer and the contractor. And we kind of knew we should be at 60 to 90 days for this restraint to shortening problem, and due to shrinkage of the concrete. But the contractor himself always was trying to get the job done on a schedule, and this pour strip was always interfering. basically all the shoring and forming underneath, and then the gap up above. So it was like, okay, we can think about this, and we did, and we came up with some really good answers. The real key to the easy part was to fill in the gap. The real key was to come up with a supporting system where we could get rid of all the shoring and forming and stuff like that, and give the contractor clear floors to work on, because at the end of the day, that's what he needed. There is nothing else out there like that. And it's been the traditional pour strip as we knew it, or as we know it, basically is 100 years old, and with no changes. And so the conflicts always were with the design team trying to get a better concrete product, and the contractor trying to get done on time. I think that these ideas that we have, there are better ways. We're doing all of our construction in a very similar way that we did 100 years ago. We've had a few digital improvements with iPads and all kinds of other things, but no real changes that really revolutionize the industry. And like we're doing, saving 2, 3, 4 months on a project, which is just a lot of, if it's a hospital, you open up for surgeries and everything else 2, 3, 4 months early. Well, that's a lot of money available to the owner, the general contractor, who saves a lot of crane time and everything else on the site. So it's a big time saver, and there just aren't many of these ideas that come around very often in our industry. And and I could lead in. We're going to one more, with the expansion joint, and that area, which is just another variation off our coupler, but it's a different modification. What we've always said in our industry is basically you have schedule, quality, and cost. Okay? And most of the time, you can only get 2 out of 3. And we devised a system here that we get 3 out of 3. And we have, it's a win-win-win, and it isn't a win-win-lose. And you give up quality, you give up price, you give up schedule. As an owner, you get it all. And that's and to me, no compromise. And we've done all the testing we needed to do. We continue to do testing. We have a room downstairs here full of broken couplers and what have you. So we never quit testing as we're trying new products, new grout products. And so we don't compromise on the safety or the code compliance of any of the projects we get involved with. There's a lot of room in this whole industry for change to make it better. And that means less costly. The McKinsey study a while back was farming was really good. That's why we have cheap food, a lot of it, okay? But construction has just continued to skyrocket. I don't care if it's your home, if it's a building, it's whatever. It just keeps going up. And so we're trying to look at ways, how can we help this place? How can we leave it a little better than we found it? It's kind of like the golf game. How do you leave the course a little better than you found it, But the nice part is almost everybody says at the end, at the end, wow, I had no idea it was so easy. But we're going to support them in all these areas and try to solve problems. And there's even problems that don't always belong to us come up and were addressed. We try to help solve these problems. We've been very good problem solvers our whole company history. And we'd like to be known as the experts in this particular field, but we're expanding that expertise because we're going around looking at our old jobs, our previous jobs. How did they perform over 2, 3, 4 years? And did they do everything that we thought they would do? And so far in our quest for that, they are. It's hard to get rid of that idea of shortening the dang schedule because it's so ingrained in them. And yet, for our product, and that's what we go back to, you don't really have to shorten this. You can let the pour strip stay ungrouted for longer, 60, 90 days, maybe more, and get a better product if it's not in your way. And still shorten the schedule, yeah, because it's off the critical path. So people understand critical path scheduling. It's like only the things on the critical path are the ones that are important to get to the end game, okay? Everything else has slip time, so to speak. And we've created this pour strip to have a lot of what I would call slip time. But with our system, basically it's clear floors. As soon as their shoring is moved up, they're moving up. They're cleared up probably in 2 weeks as opposed to 2, 3, 4 months. And so all these people can start earlier. And that was exactly what Mortensen McCarthy told ENR. That's what saved their schedule, was letting these contractors in early because they weren't hampered by all the forming and shoring and everything else related to the concrete construction. In this business, you don't sell to a contractor unless he's making some money or you're the low price or whatever. You don't sell in this business. And you got to show value. And if you show value and you get them to understand, and that's a key with our sales team is really a teaching team. And everybody involved in the sales and the marketing, it's all about teaching someone how to do a new thing. Jared always says, you had to convince people to use shoes at some point, and stuff like that, but you had to show them the value of the shoe because now before it was free, they're just walking their feet. And now they're going to pay a little bit for a shoe. And now you got to show value that, that's the thing with the new product. It's really fun leaving a mark on an industry that we made some improvements. Beyond the money, beyond everything else, you made our world a little better. Well, I'm gonna regress just a little bit. I'd say my sons, okay?
Please, yes.
Because all three are working here now. 2 are engineers. And they've really stepped up. They've had somewhat of a privileged life, but they enjoy the same things I enjoy. And working with them and because they're my what should I say, my emissaries or whatever. I don't travel as much. They do the heavy work. I did travel before. It was every 2 weeks for these casino projects and keeping us on schedule. But for them, they're enjoying this as much as I enjoy that. That's part of, too much of our life is about tasks. And you look back and you're trying to remember all the tasks you did because that's what you were remunerated for. But this goes beyond that. And sure, there's tasks involved. But this is changing our world a little bit. This is coming out with something altogether new, altogether different. And I think in 5 years, maybe less, there won't be another pour strip out there unless someone is working in the backwoods somewhere. And we're just trying to do this right and trying to do it as well as we can and as fast as we can. But that's the training of everybody to think different. So we were able to do a lot of hands-on stuff, and for anybody who works around here realizes that I do a lot of hands-on stuff. Okay, and I now even with my granddaughter, and with some of the latest testing, she was down at Element with me and over at Semstone's laboratory, breaking cubes and stuff with our grout and stuff, and I just want to make sure she's going into engineering. And to make sure that she really understands what we're doing. And do you still like it? So that, and then my sons, they were pretty close, especially Jason growing up. He was really close with a lot of the early business and that. Those are, so the family aspect, and they all have worked, I didn't miss any hockey games. I would travel to New Orleans instead of Gulfport and drive to Gulfport so I could make the Thursday night high school games. And they didn't miss out. They understood that, and they're doing that with their families. And their family, we're all close. We're in White Bear, and the furthest away is 15 minutes. So and I think they like working together. They're all 5 years apart. How do we do this better? And how do we make this world a little better place? And they have the same, and I think Ellen now will do the same, and maybe Aubrey, when she gets done with her school. It's fun to watch. Fun to watch my sons do what they're doing. And because it would be, Yeah, it could be probably done without them, but it's a lot more with them. A lot more fun with them than without them. And you can hire people to do this, and I know I have a lot of friends in the business who are trying to sell their businesses, and that isn't an issue here. It's just enjoyable. I don't think most people think of their work as enjoyable as I do, probably. So anyway, that's a little bit about the families, but they're all athletes. Yeah. So we have fun with lacrosse and hockey, and that stuff. So I get my 10,000 steps a day, and we all golf and stuff. So now it's training. Aubrey was on the varsity girls team at White Bear. Hanley would like to make the varsity boys team, so we're working on that. So anyway, it's fun teaching them, and I'm kind of analytical about everything. So we got our digitized methods for short game, and when they see it works, well, then all of a sudden, even Maverick was out with me on Saturday, and it's like all of a sudden a little tweak, and it works for him, and he's excited.
How many grandkids are there in total?
8. Yeah. 5 girls, 3 boys. Everybody got a boy.
There you go. Yep.
They're fun, and I get to spend. I think I'm the envy of the grandparent scene. Okay, and fortunately, I still have the energy to get to their games, get to their practices, and watching Wesley. He's the first lefty. John and I both shoot hockey left-handed. I never played hockey, but I did work with my kids, but Wesley is a left-handed golfer. John gives him a golf club, and no matter what it is, he goes left with it. So it's just fun to watch them and watch them grow up, and it's family, it's business, and whenever we get together, it's all business. I mean, or athletics. We're talking about Hanley, or we're talking about our PS0 stuff, or our new projects. How can we approach these guys? And so it's always it's talking about things that we're all interested in. And I think that makes the family side of it really good. Anyway, it's just, what should I say, makes life enjoyable. Instead of, it was never meant to be endured. What do you want to be in life when you grow up? And it was John Lennon. I want to be happy. Well, the teacher said, I don't think you understand the question. And he responded back, I don't think you understand life. And I had that conversation. Similar yesterday with Ellen.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you want to be, what makes you happy? You got to figure this out. Then you can figure out what you want to be. Okay?